breaking everybody up into the groups that you came here with. I'm going to send you over to this original wagon to take 2 quick photos. Afterwards, guys, feel free to roam about. Just please don't climb on any of the wagons. Stay behind the black ropes and give the horses space, guys. He's taking a bath. I don't want to get suds all over. Oh, and one more thing. I do ask that you participate and that you wait back here until I call you forward. It helps me keep track of people as everybody's moving about. Also makes it a lot faster. With that, let's get started.
On board this hitch and sent it up the East Coast to deliver to all of the politicians who helped her peel the apples. So we like to think of FDR as a Budweiser man. And later on, there was another animal that was introduced to our hitch. Does anybody know what this animal was? Very good. The Dalmatian. The Dalmatian dog was introduced in the 1950s, originally as a guard dog to help protect on deliveries. But over time, we realized that this Dalmatian is actually just a wonderful companion for our horses. Now he's swift enough to keep up with the hitch, as well as his bright spots are easy to see during twilight hours. Finally, I want to talk about the building we're inside. Adolphus Busch, of course, was a beautiful animal, and it deserves a beautiful home. So you're probably going to see that these stables are probably one of the nicest stables you'll ever be in. It has its stained glass windows, rounded door frames, even a giant chandelier in the center of the ceiling. Now this chandelier weighs 650 pounds and is made of pure brass. It was acquired by Adolphus Busch in the 1904 World's Fair. He was a committee member of the fair, so much like any mother-in-law at a wedding, he saw a centerpiece that he just had to take home. It has a twin, it's in the Adolphus Hotel in Dallas. Now, if anyone was only here for the horses of the Clydesdales were the only thing
fermentation process. Now the process that happens here is known as secondary fermentation. It's kind of an extra step. We're the only macrobrewery in the world that still does this process. Reason being, it's rather long. It takes about 20 to 21 days to be complete. But we only do it for our Budweiser and Bud Light brands. But what is it? So I passed around wooden chips. If they've made their way to the back, feel free to pass them back to the front. And you'll find that they're odorless, they're tasteless. They do nothing to affect the taste of the beer whatsoever. They're merely a tool, like a hammer or a wrench, to help our fermentation process. But what do they do? Inside these giant tanks, at the very bottom, rests about 1.5 feet of these. And they just sit there. And that's it. That's all they do. Also in these tanks is beer and yeast. So what the chips do is they make sure that they stay in constant contact with the yeast to ferment it, to give it alcohol and carbonation. Now the sign above me says there's 3,600 barrels of beer in just one tank. That's 7,200 kegs or 1.2 million bottles of beer on the wall, guys. That's a lot of beer. Yes, challenge accepted. Who else thinks that they can accept this challenge? No? No? All right, are you ready for your challenge? This is what you need to do. If you wanted to do one of these tanks on your own, you're gonna have one beer every hour, on the hour, for a day. Simple 24-pack, guys. It's gotta be like a regular Tuesday, right? Yeah? Let's have this Tuesday every day, every week, every month. Limbo. Anyway, you're gonna have that beer every day, every week, every month for just 137 years. Is it doable? Exactly, there we go. If you succeed, your face goes on the tank that you complete. We're still waiting on the results of that one. But if you succeed, and you do want to wait, you want to keep going, we'll give you 109 for free. Wonderful, right?
Budweiser and Bud Light. We have our barley malts, our rice, our hops, water, and yeast. Just 5 simple ingredients that go into brewing what you're drinking right now. What do these ingredients do in particular? We have our barley malts. This is what gives your beer its flavor and its color. Then we have our rice. Rice is very particular to Budweiser and Bud Light. Fun fact, we're the only brewery that uses rice. Reason being, it's more expensive. But we like to put in that extra dollar because it ensures a lighter body and a more crisp taste, which our brands are really known for having, particularly Budweiser and Bud Light. If you hold up your cup and you can see it, that's thanks to the rice. If your cup is empty, that's not because of the rice. Nice try. Then we have hops. Hops is known as the spice of beer. It tends to give beer its bitterness and its aroma, what beer is really known for having. If you guys have never seen a hops plant before, don't worry. I worked really hard on a painting for you. It's right behind you. Hope you like it. But no, it grows along vines. You break it down piece by piece, and somehow it ends up in that jar. Then we have water. We have breweries all around the world, and these breweries use the water in the areas where they brew. So because of that, that water can tend to have different minerals in it that can cause it to taste different. So we want to make sure you guys get the same Budweiser and Bud Light regardless of where it's been brewed or bought. So what we do with it is we put it through a multi-stage filtration system, which is really just a fancy way of saying that we clean it, and we purify it, and we filter it, and then we purify it, and we filter it, and we clean it again. We put it through a lot of stages of cleaning, guys, to ensure that the taste of our water isn't, or the taste of our beer isn't as affected by the water as if it would have had we not already done that before. Then we have yeast. Now, yeast is actually really cool. The yeast strain we use to brew Budweiser and Bud Light derives exactly from the same yeast strain that Anheuser Busch used himself when he first created Budweiser. Now that means that without that yeast strain, we wouldn't have Budweiser and Bud Light as we know it today. But more importantly, if you're drinking Budweiser right now, it tastes just like Anheuser Busch's very first batch. I don't know about you guys, but do you know that you're drinking history? That brings a whole new meaning to that term, I'm getting at. That's cool, right? So then we have these solids. We need to turn them into that liquid. We have our process right here. This is, you either follow along Budweiser or Bud Light. It's the same process with one minor detail. I'll let you know what that is in just a second. But the very first thing we want to do is take our grains. That's our barley malt and that's our rice. We're going to crush them up, grind them, and precisely weigh them. Then we're going to put them in our mash tanks. Now in there is also warm water. It's in this step where we're trying to extract the flavors of the grains and embed it into the water. It's also in this step where the difference happens between Budweiser and Bud Light. Now for Budweiser, these grains and that water are going to sit in those tanks for 2 hours. But for Bud Light, it's 4. It's doubled. Reason being that the longer that it sits in those tanks, the more sugars, calories, carbohydrates that are being extracted out through the heat, thus making a lighter version of the original. But that's it. That's the only difference. So after it's in our mash tanks, it's going to move on into straining. Now straining is pretty self-explanatory, guys. I don't know about you, but the thought of having to chew my beer makes me not want to have it. Fair enough? Yeah. So let's get rid of those grains. We're going to sell them as cattle feed, but we're going to keep the liquid that's left. Now this liquid, it's like a sugary, rich, amber-colored liquid, but that's about as good as the additives get when I try to describe it. It's called wort. Yeah, no, it tastes the way it sounds. It's not exactly good, and it's not really beer. If you wanted to try wort, which I'm not sure why you want to, you can go to any store and you can pick up a course, and it'll taste the same. So what we're going to do with that wort is we're going to put it in our brew kettles. Now those are like giant, oversized teapots, and we need to put in our tea leaves. So that's going to be our hops. The hop blend through the wort is giving it the bitterness, the aroma, the flavor. Now it's really starting to look like beer. So now we've got to add that party factor, right? Alcohol! Yes, let's put it in primary fermentation tanks. Just giant cooling tanks where the beer sits with yeast to ferment. So give it alcohol and carbonation. Then it's going to go into Beechwood aging. Guys, that place we just heard with the Beechwood chip, it's going to sit there, continue to create alcohol, continue to create carbonation. Then it's almost done. Then it's going to move on into finishing. That's where it's filtered a time or two more before it's bottled, then packaged, and then sent back to your loving home. How awkward should this get, guys? Could I make it any more awkward? No? Okay. So the most important step has got to be what you're doing right now, which is drinking, tasting, enjoying it. We have our brewmasters taste every single step to ensure that it's up to par before it's sent to the next step. Now we want to make sure you guys get the right batch every single time. But more importantly, we don't want to waste energy or resources on a bad batch. So we have to make sure that it's right. In fact, in this very building on the 6th floor every day at 3 p.m., our brewmasters get together and taste those final batches of beer before it's sent off to you. Sounds like a dream job, right? I wish they were accepting applications. Does anybody have any questions on all that? For a lot of them.
Across from me are some retired straining tanks. That's where the wort is separated from the grains. And if you guys want to come around, come close, you'll see our brew kettles. They're below your feet. Those are our oversized teapots where the hops are mixed with the wort. And speaking of those hops, we have these twin chandeliers. And these chandeliers extend 4 stories and were also acquired from the 1904 World's Fair, just like the ones in the stables. Once you guys get your final pictures, we're going to go back down the elevators the same way we came in. So you're going to follow me through those same doors. So get those final pictures, and we're going to go back the same way.
A time in our nation's history when we couldn't. Do you know where I'm getting at? It was the boo time. It was Prohibition, guys. There was a whole 13-year period, 1920 to 1933, when we couldn't brew beer. Let me emphasize this. This is a brewery. This is a place made to make beer. And at that time, we couldn't make what we were made to make. So we had to invest in other ways to stay alive during that time. We started making ice creams, soft drinks, even baker's yeast. In fact, the baker's yeast was so successful, we took its mascot and put it on the top of these 2 pillars. It was an elephant with the trunk facing up. Fun fact about that baker's yeast when we sold it, as we all know, yeast is what ferments beer. It gives it its alcohol. So we had to put a label on it. This label said, do not use to brew beer. Fair enough. Then it came with a second label. This second label had specific instructions on exactly how to brew beer to be sure that no one brew beer. But I think they knew what they were doing. But luckily on April 7th, 1933, Prohibition was repealed. Those Clydesdales debuted through these very gates to deliver that first batch of post-Prohibition beer. They even say we were so excited about it, we had a party here on the brewery grounds lasting 3 days. But no one can remember it. You guys can get a pretty good look at our clock tower. Our clock tower is the staple of our grounds. It's actually the third most photographed structure in St. Louis, the first being the arch, and the second being myself. My selfie count is really high. But if you guys want to make a 180, you're going to see a 3-story brick building behind a flagpole. Now this brick building is pretty special. It's actually the oldest on our grounds. The third national landmark in the built in 1868. It is the Old Lyon Schoolhouse, named after the Union General from the Civil War, Nathaniel Lyon. Now in 1907, the city realized that a school across the street from a brewery is probably not the best idea. Now let me paint a picture for you guys. Teachers were not coming back from recess, okay? 2 plus 2 is equaling 5, and dodgeball was way too aggressive. So they had the common sense to sell it to us, and we made it our executive offices. Augustus Busch Sr. even made his old classroom on the 3rd floor his personal executive offices. But in 1982, with the introduction of a little product, I don't know if you heard of it, Bud Light, yeah, our company boomed, and we needed to expand with it. So you're going to see behind our building, there's like a building with a black smokestack. Oh heavens, that is actually our North American headquarters to this day. Now guys, I have good news for you, and I have bad news for you. What do you want first? The bad news? The tour's over. Don't hurt yourselves, guys. Now it's time for the free beer! You're the most ecstatic. Anyway, so you guys have been awesome on behalf of Anheuser Busch and myself. Thank you for coming and touring with us today. If you enjoyed the tour, my name is Katie, and if you didn't, I'm Deborah. Yeah, cool. We're gonna make a 180. Take out those tickets. We're gonna get you that free beer, and anyone under 21 can have a free soft drink as well. Go ahead. You're gonna follow me up the street. Thank you so much.
Last thing to bring your attention up here on these 4-story hot line chandeliers on either side of us here. Now, just like the chandelier within the stable, Adolphus also acquired these in that same 1904 World's Fair. We are going to make our way down a few flights of stairs, back outside. We're going to begin making our way over to our people back to the facility. Along the way, we will go across the railroad tracks, so just make sure you watch your step, right? For 6th floor bottling line number 34 there. Now this building here that we are standing in, it houses 5 canning, 4 bottling, 1 draft keg, and 1 aluminum bottle line. And today I'm going to talk to you the daily life of bottling a bottle of beer. And when I'm going to reference some of the brands that we are using, I'm not going to reference to the fillers next to it and the numbers on top. It'll give you a better visualization where these equipments are and what they do. Now, starting on the far right side over here with these 2 circling machines that's going very, very, very fast. That is the beginning step of it all. That is our rinser and filler. Now, if you do look out from the beer galley window here, you can see those bottles enter those machines in a single file line. First, entering the rinser about 118. That rinser grabs those bottles, it flips them upside down, and a stream of pure clean water shot up into the bottle around it, cleaning up any dust particles and bacteria. The bottle filler moves directly into the filler. Now the filler's got other certification with the orange straws coming out of it. I put a 119 there. Now that filler there has 144 filling valves. Right? Now you can see how fast it's going.